Thanks, Rachel. Dear participants, dear Mr. Donfried, Saida Safir, Sabah Khair, good morning. So, as you already see, also very much a multicultural product. I'm half Indian, half German. I'm actually East German, East Berliner. I learned Russian in school and Arabic and Persian in university. So it was kind of natural to be in this field. So I grew up in that. I chose my profession in that, which is journalism. Of course, as journalists, we deal with a lot of this hard policy issues that you just mentioned before. But as someone who has studied Middle Eastern studies, studied history, traveled the region, of course there's so much more. And you always have the urge to tell more and to get your stories straight, get your stories through, and a lot of journalists do. I know there's a lot of criticism in the media. I will do some here myself. Although I'm myself a member of the media, so I'm not a media basher. I think that media is changing fast. I think it is actually improving. We all know the challenges that media faces from all kinds of sides. So it's a very fast-changing environment. So when I present this to you, be aware this is not a static situation. It's really evolving, and a lot of people are actually part of it, and more people are part of it. So I'm sorry for the resolution of those pictures. I try to explain. What you can see here is basically the same picture, which would make you think that should be the same story, right? But I mean, what story is that? Like a woman writing something on a board. And of course, it's three stories that couldn't be more different. One story is about migrants in Italy. One is about roots of the Bavarian population and foreign roots of Bavarian population. And another is about Islamic education in Germany. All use the same picture. So you see there's something wrong here. Because first of all, they don't have anything to do with the story that's being told. Second of all, they use a same image over and over, which then, of course, gets connected with all kinds of problems or issues that don't necessarily belong together. So, like migrant issues in Italy are a totally different subject than Islamic education, Muslim education in Germany. But through the pictures, it all gets meshed together. And I think it is not the only explanation, but it's part of why we see in the discourse such a mashup of Islam, integration, refugee crisis, all very complex issues. I mean, they all share common concerns somewhat, but especially with those segments in the population that somewhat have become like an anti-opinion, quite an anti-opinion, they all mesh that together. And pictures do play a role, absolutely. And here you can see why this is a problem. And we thought at Zenith magazine that we should change it. Now, Zenith magazine is the magazine I'm working for. It's a magazine focused on the Middle East, founded by former students of Middle Eastern studies. All of us have been traveling around the region, learning some language. We're doing this for 20 years. We decided to do this with the magazine, but also through a foundation, the Keynote Foundation, which implements projects like the Zenith Photo Watch, which I'm going to present you here. All of them have the aim to kind of challenges those kind of misrepresentation a bit. So the idea was that, especially the role of Islam, if we like it or not, it is a public issue. We may not like that the lines of argument, how it's done. If it's in the talk shows, we may not like who's sitting there and who's not. But it's gonna stay. this we have to accept that. The question is how we're going to contribute. We cannot afford to stand by the sidelines and just watch it. So we decided to find a different approach, a very simple approach actually, because as journalists we write, of course, as learned academics even more so. But to be honest, you only reach a very tiny part of an audience with that, so you have to be much more plastic. You have to go to image to reach people, to initiate this kind of conversation that you wouldn't necessarily do with a very well articulated academic piece, so to break it down. So we decided let's do a photo award, because competition is also something that really that maybe gets people going into. So also we didn't really want to set the standard, but we wanted to let people, especially Muslims, decide, okay, what does your world look like? Show us what you don't see in other media. Also, we wanted non-Muslims to get up and maybe go visit their neighborhood's mosque where they have never been before. Let's visit a Ramadan ceremony, whatever. Get to know something with your camera that you wouldn't do otherwise. So we try to give people a reason to get into discussion, to get into contact. And of course, the overriding mission of that was to challenge stereotypes, counter prejudice, and basically give a more realistic representation of what Muslim life in Germany actually looks like. So we devised a photo award online. This is now the fourth time that we did it, actually. The first three rounds we did it Germany only. The fourth time was last year. We did it Europe-wide. Of course, this had very specific reasons. As you all know, political landscape, not only political landscape, really social landscape, totally changed within the last few years. So if you talk about far-right ideologies and Islam and society, it's a European discussion. It doesn't make that much sense to just limit this on Germany, and so we took a European perspective. And as you could imagine, of course, the picture is even more fragmented, but gives you even a much better idea how diverse actually Muslim life in Europe is. As you can see here, we devised a tool where people could actually upload their photo series on their own. So basically wanted to give this ownership to the people themselves, so that we didn't really filter that much. Also, we wanted people to rate pictures. Now, how do you rate pictures? Well, there's of course two kinds. Either the quality, just the aesthetics, and the other is like the concept. And the idea behind this was to get as many people as possible involved. Also, you see we had two different categories for professional photographers and amateurs. This had also very specific reasons, because those were our main target groups. Professional photographers have a really hard time selling those kind of everyday stories to media, because everyday life, normal life, is not news. And even if they do a very intimate story, put a lot of energy in it, they have a hard time selling that. So a lot of those photographers came to us and said, thank you that we have some kind of medium to share that. On the other hand, there were amateur photographers who were would be kind of shy to actually participate in a photo competition with professionals, but who have a nice idea, who always thought, I always wanted to visit that Muslim community center, but I never really had the opportunity. or maybe I was too shy or whatever. So this gave them an opportunity to do to that. Also, with advancement of technology, it is of course much easier to get like good quality pictures, even if you're not a professional photographer. So that's why I think generally the quality it's pretty high, and also the range that we got. Now you can see here the different bars, so you can actually weigh what how you like the quality, the aesthetics, and how the concepts, right? So what is more important for you in a picture? Is it the image that it draws to you, that you maybe click on something or stay there, or the message? This is something that we wanted people to think about. We wanted them to really think about what a picture conveys. So this, for example, this is from one of the photo series. This is Syrian refugees that portrayed themselves with portraits in the Museum Island here in Berlin. This was also like a group project. So it actually brought people together who developed an idea, did that together with the cultural institution, with the museum, and did a photo series and participated. You see already here, this one is Arabic. This is just in development, because we are at the moment preparing a similar kind of event for Libya, where we did several projects, and basically we want to transplant this now from Germany, Europe, across the Mediterranean, because it just makes sense. And we have the tool to Libya, and hopefully to other countries around the Mediterranean. Actually, our development team is based in Tunisia. They're Tunisians. Some are from East Africa also. So even the technical creation of this tool is an intercultural project. Yeah. So this is, I want to finally show you how actually a photo here looks like, because there are like over 50 series. Of course, I encourage you to explore all of them. I just give you like a snapshot what it looks like. This, for example, is a series from Italy. I don't know where and why. Really. So they had a really good discussion, not only about what they were seeing, but also how would they deal with the pictures if they were in their editorial room. So how does it affect their everyday life? That was a very fruitful discussion. So that we had like this both sides, a very public, like a public debate, but also a debate among decision makers in the media, who often are aware of the discrepancies. I would also stress that it's not that they are choosing those kind of pictures that I showed in the first one out of bad will. It's just sheer time pressure very often, and also just not the time to really reflect on the pictures and images and what they do. So just very short on our impact. We had over 50 photo series. I really like the range. It was like really basically every European country. Of course, the bigger one were very prominently featured, but we also had like Austria, and I think in Austria it's I think an even more delicate and important discussion, especially in Eastern Europe. And I also think that our next round in Europe will definitely focus much more on Eastern Europe, because it's a totally different discussion there, and it's much more relevant and really important there at the moment. Yeah, this of course this photo wall totally benefited our site, our magazine. We drew much more interest from really around Europe. So. For me, the best impact was actually the exhibition that we did afterwards, also in the Kulturbrauerei, which houses a museum. which is a branch of the German House of History in Bonn. And they actually did something which I think is so important. We always talk about like the sustainability. Yeah. What I mean, after you finish such an award, what stays? What happens? So actually, what we did was we organized a lot of follow-ups, especially with children in school classes. So what you see here, for example, is the exhibition. You recognize maybe the photo here on the right is the ones that I showed you before. Those are school classes. They have a school day excursion, and they are visiting and afterwards discussing that. Those are 14-year-old kids. This is an audience that we didn't reach with the photo award itself. But it is actually one of the most important audience that we should reach, because their opinion is just being formed. So I think this like off-world, real-world experience, this connection was very important. We had almost 10,000 visitors to the exhibition, which ran for almost half a year. And it will also go on tour now throughout Europe. And yeah, and also we got some coverage and news, also because we have a good network within editorial rooms, but also because, and that was our goal, it is so much easier to get into the news with pictures, because the internet is a visual medium. And if you like it or not, the way you draw people to engage with those kind of topics is visually. So that's, and also like editorial rooms are always happy if they have photo material for free. Let's be honest. So because this draws naturally much more than any good text. So this bento, this is the youth magazine of Spiegel. So they did a story on the photo award. Yeah, so I think the media coverage, it wasn't large, because still what we basically show is everyday life, and this is not a very attractive thing for a news business, right? But other than that, I think it was pretty okay. So, but of course, very shortly, it's much more complicated. As I told it now, it was all very successful, good idea, implemented, and it was a tremendous success. Overall, it was, but it is very hard to do. There are a lot of challenges. I condensed them here a bit. A lot of this is very technical, of course, with technology. This is something I think everyone who does those kinds of projects has to deal with. Use the advancements of technology to your advantage. It means developing new tools, but this will give you an edge. And this needs time, a lot of testing, and as I told you, we did this with a Tunisian team of developers. So it is a very unique intercultural experience. But it was very fruitful. You get totally different kinds of input, and it really paid off. And without bragging too much, I haven't seen a kind of voting tool like we had anywhere else. So we did this on the scratch. We did no WordPress template or whatever. We really put energy, effort in it to do something new. And I would encourage everyone to really have also this approach to technology. Also, of course, you have a photo competition. You never know who's going to participate. A lot of people may say, yeah, that's a good idea, and go on. Or, yeah, I would do that, but I don't have the time, or whatever. So you can reach a lot of people. You never know how many participate. You don't know the quality. So this is an unknown, and this is also something that I would encourage. You cannot plan everything through. You have to be a bit, you have to take the risk. And I mean, I would have liked definitely like more contributions. The dilemma we had was we want to do it Europe-wide, so we had to do it in one language to have the same basis. Of course, this excludes a lot of people. People who would like to participate, who may even speak English, but who maybe think their English is not good enough, for example. So it is a problem. I think that we noticed this after that only settling on one language doesn't work, especially if you have an intercultural project. So I mean, if we praise ourselves that we speak more than one language, I think this should also reflect on that. So I think for next time we'll have that we have to include much more languages, just to include more people, because although English is still the #1 language, still a lot of people are excluded. Yeah, and it was, and still, although we had some coverage, it was very hard to get into the newsroom, especially on the executive level, because you rarely have the problem with editors, especially with photo editors. They're all fine with that, and also in terms of like media partnership, they don't have a problem with that. But media business is first and foremost a business. So it's not editors and journalists who make the decisions. I think it's very important to understand how media works. So it's very hard to get this kind of understanding on a business level, executive level. This is something I think we also need to work on, that those on the business level have kind of ear for those kind of beneficial corporations, right? They're also under tremendous pressure. It's a very hard business. A lot of papers go out of work, so the pressure is immense. So that's why they're a bit hesitant, but I think they can definitely benefit from that, because also like what every media company wants is interaction. It's a community, because a community is like an alliance for subscribers. So people who stay with your paper, stay with your media, and come back and pay for it. So this is how you create community, basically. So this is the kind of pitch that that should be made, right? So yeah, that's all from me from this presentation.